class, Miss Nina here again. Today I'm going to read you not a book, but an article. So the fun thing about reading is that you can find it anywhere. You can read while you're watching a movie because some movies are in different languages and you need subtitles on to read and understand what the movie is about. You can read in magazines, newspaper articles, and even online on the computer. You guys have experience with Mayan, but there's all other reading sources online. Today I'm going to read to you another story about Greta Thunberg and her fight against climate change. It's an article I found online and I hope you enjoy it. How dare you? Young people rally to demand action on climate change. This article is found on the website teachingkidsnews.com, and the article was written by Joyce Grant. We first have a photo, and the photo is of a young lady, and you can look at the background. There's a lot of people in the background, and her sign reads, "You would have got away with it if it weren't for these meddling kids." Children's author Carrie Marin pays homage to students and Scooby-Doo at the Climate March in Toronto on September 23rd. Photo was taken also by Joyce Grant, our author. TKN, which stands for Teaching Kids News. And here we have another photo, and this photograph is a little bit different. You can still see a lot of people, but what do you notice about the people in front? Their ages, their signs. One sign reads, "Be cool." Another, "Vote for people who defend nature." Pretty clever. And the caption reads, "Young people march outside Queen's Park in Toronto." Photo again by Joyce Grant, TKN. Millions of people, young people around the world march on September 27th to protest their government's inaction on climate change. Entire ecosystems are collapsing, and all you can talk about is the money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? That is the message 16-year-old Greta Thunberg brought to the world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly on September 23rd. Thunberg was referring to many political leaders who, instead of working together to fix global warming, are focusing on how limiting pollution can negatively affect businesses and economies. That speech, in part, has galvanized young people and others around the world. They took to the streets in the millions to raise awareness of the serious nature of the problem and to tell the governments to do something about it. Thunberg, who was from Sweden, inspired the Friday rallies, one of which also took place on Friday, September 20th. And here we have another photo, another age group. The caption reads, "Young people protest in Toronto." Photo again by Joyce Grant, TKN. My message to all the politicians is the same: to just listen to science. Act on the science, Thunberg said at an event before the march. More than 140 marches were held in Canada. Hundreds of marches were also held in the United States, the United Kingdom, and in other countries. Many school boards around the world gave permission for students to have the day off to march in the protests. People also took to social media, posting photos using hashtags like Fridays for Future, School Strike, and Climate Change. Thinking and discussion prompts. So after reading, this is the time for you to think and discuss. You can discuss with somebody around you, your parent, call a friend, maybe another classmate who has also read this read aloud. And these are just some tips on how to remember what we just read and use your own ideas to figure out your fight against climate change, what you would like to do. Just over a year ago, Greta Thunberg decided to protest against government inaction on climate change. She didn't have anyone to join her. In August 2018, she sat alone outside Sweden's parliament to raise awareness of the problems. Eventually, others heard about her and decided to help. A year later, she had sparked global movement as students around the world have taken up the cause against climate change. Look at the two photos below, taken about a year apart. How do you think Greta Thunberg felt then? And how do you think she feels now? What has changed? What has stayed the same? What do you think will happen a year from now? So here's the first photo, and we see this young Greta. You see her little sign in the background, Skolstrike for Climate, which we know from our other Read Out Loud, it stands for School Strike for Climate, or Strike for Climate, something like that. I had to reread it. But this is the photo taken in August 2018 outside the Parliament building. And the photo was taken by Andrew Helberg, CC. I'm not sure what CC stands for. And then here's the other photo. This photo of Greta Thunberg was taken a little over a year later at the European Parliament. Now, this photo, you do see a lot of people. You hardly see Greta, but if you zoom in to the left, here's Greta with a smile on her face, surrounded. Looks like hundreds of people because there's so many heads here. Cameras. Now this photo, it says CC by 4.0 European Union 2019 Source EP. So it says right here, CC must stand for Creative Commons.org, licensed by 4.0. So I want you to discuss these questions that were asked of you and write them down. Write down your answers, because your assignment for today is to actually compare the feelings that Greta did have then and compare them to the present time. Now, although this was taken, the photo below was taken in 2019, we all know that wasn't very long ago. So do you think she has the same type of feeling as she does in this picture now that we're in 2020? Compare the two photos and also do some other research of your own. I've also added an extra link or two, two links of Greta's speeches, so you can take a look at those. One from 2018 and then one more recent one. Take a look at them and compare. Use those research material to compare these photos and help you answer the questions that you have for your assignment today. Girls, so now that you've read yet another story about Greta, you should have a lot of intel, a lot of information, and background knowledge now on Greta and her fight for climate change. I have attached two other resources, two other videos for you to take a look at. And the whole time that you're watching those videos, I want you to really take your time, stop and jot, write down some notes on key details that tell you about Greta and her feelings against climate change. So the whole point of this assignment is for you to really dig into Greta. How is Greta feeling internally, inside? How does she feel? And what is she showing and doing externally? Okay? So internally, you can feel really sorry for somebody. You can show compassion. You can show, you can feel empathy. But what are you going to do when you have those feelings? So let's say you feel bad for someone. You feel empathy because somebody has lost their favorite toy, and you know how that feels. Well, what would you do? Maybe you'll go up to them and tell them your story and just kind of give them a compliment to fill them boost them up a little bit. Okay, give them a little bit of confidence so they won't be so sad that they lost that toy. Well, same thing here. You are going to talk about what Greta feels, how she felt back then in 2008, 2018 and how she feels now in 2020. And with those feelings, what is motivating her? What it keeps pushing her to keep giving these speeches? What's pushing her to keep writing articles and going to these world events and just motivating others to fight for climate change? What is motivating her? And how has she changed over the years from 2018 to 2019? So keep that in mind as you do your next assignment for your read aloud. Remember, your thinking and discussion prompt that was in the article, those are just brainstormings, guys. You can write them down. I want you to write them down. I want you to discuss them, but that is not your assignment. That is your brainstorming portion. That is getting your mind and your thoughts written down so that way you can make a plan and draft up your paper to do your assignment. Alrighty? I hope you enjoyed the story about Greta. I know I did. See you again.